Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko, alone again, naturally. The guys are with us on remote today. Tariq, how you doing, man? Man in the middle. How are you?
Feeling good today. I'm feeling good, feeling all right. Thank you for having me here. But you're never alone, Bill. You're never alone. We're here.
All right, Pat Duffy, Mavericks hockey. Don't know what that is.
The former Missouri Mavericks of the ECHL. When I did stand-up comedy for a living, I used to bring some of my hockey stuff on the road and try and talk like local hockey teams and letting me like fake practice with them. And they kind of let me out on the ice for a little while, thinking it would help sell tickets to the comedy club. It didn't help at all. But they gave me a sweatshirt.
Tariq, speaking of ridiculous, let's start talking soccer. We don't really do a lot of that. Have you been engaged at all with the World Cup?
Yes, Plisik all the way. And let me just say this. How many people would lay it on the line with your team not going to the World Cup final, just advancing to the next round? He knew he was going to get plastered. He knew the U.S. needed that goal. I know full well, by the time this aired, people have been talking about it for the last 3 days. I don't care. That's going to live in U.S. hockey. That's going to live in U.S. soccer history for years to come and World Cups to come.
You know what I think is funny about that goal? I mean, it was a tremendous goal. It says he goes down and he stays in the goal. And I think just soccer culture. I mean, how many of us didn't think it, like, come on, he's not really hurt, right?
Oh, no, he was hurt. And when you saw the replay, you were just like, oh.
Yeah, but I think it took a while for it to sink in, just because like the soccer culture is like, you go down, you stay down. You just do, right, Pat?
Yeah, no, you're right. But look, after watching it, his kids are definitely be born with little birds like circling them with stars, right? But to answer the question before, I want to be engaged in this. I love sports. I love international sports. I love the Olympics. I love international hockey and baseball. Like, I want to like this. I can't like it. What? I don't know why. I don't know what it is.
What do you mean? No, first of all, this is very rare occasion. So we gather for certain moments. A couple of friends of mine tried to get together to watch this game and to watch these games. This was so great. This goes back to classic baseball. And I know you remember this, Bill, where they would have the World Series or they would have playoff games in the middle of the day. My son ran home from the bus because the game came on as soon as he got out of school just to watch what he could left of that game. If that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what is. And he stayed there all the way through before he had to go to basketball practice.
Look, it sounds romantic. I want to be like you, Tariq. I want to be like you. I just can't. I don't understand.
Write that
down. I don't understand the rules. The game just doesn't do it for me. I can't name you a single American player except for the guy that took a shot in the pills. And honestly, I just forgot his name after you said it before. I want to get into it. I can't do it. It makes me feel unpatriotic, but I can't.
You know what I don't get, Pat, is that I think the comp is Stanley Cup hockey. The tenseness, the fact that every goal is so important, it's the nearest thing, I think, to Stanley Cup hockey that I've seen.
Yeah, but here's the difference with hockey. And I understand that there are people that have a hard time watching hockey that didn't grow up playing or watching hockey. There's things happening in hockey outside of the 1 or 2 goals that you're going to see. You're going to get 3 to 5 goals every single game minimum in a hockey game. I don't know what I'm watching, and I don't know when the excitement's going to happen. Like, if you watch a football game, you could know nothing about football. You know the ball has to go over that line, and eventually it's going to happen. You can watch 3 soccer games and see 1 goal. In fact, that's what happened in the first 3 games with the Americans, right? Look, I'm not saying soccer's not great. I understand the draw of soccer to people that love it. It's just not for me. I can't do it.
Well, I'll risk this, but let me just, while I've got Pat, fix it then. Give me something that for you might fix soccer.
Okay, I got a great idea. Are you ready? A couple of things. Are you ready? Like, the field is too big. Bring the field smaller. You got too many guys out there. I'd say maybe 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and a goalie. Give them all sticks, cover the field with ice, and I think I would be into it.
Well, here's the thing. In all honesty, he raises a very good point. I don't know anybody on this team. I to be honest with you, there's no familiarity with anybody on there. There's no face of it other than Plisik. There's nobody that we know. They're a very young team. They will grow and get a little bit better, and maybe you'll see them on certain things if they do well in this World Cup.
I'm sorry, I don't even need to know the names. Like, I love the Olympics so much. I watched the pentathlon front to back when the Olympics came on, cheering for the United States. It doesn't have to be name recognition. I don't know, man. It's just, maybe it's like that ultra arrogant American in me that just cannot bring myself to learn the rules of a sport I do not understand. I don't know what it is. I'm a bad person.
What's
I
the
can't do
rules to learn? Just kick the ball into the net, for crying out loud. It's not a,
No, it's not,
not a-
because there
It
was-
is pretty basic.
But there's a goal that gets disallowed by the U.S. the other day because the guy was offsides. I don't see any blue line out there for all the offsides moves. That doesn't make any sense. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
We are the
Well, you
Rochester
guys are
Press
so-
Box, and we're talking Buffalo Bills next. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box, where our Buffalo Bills segment is brought to you by Ralph Honda. For 3 generations and celebrating 50 years as New York's first and oldest Honda dealer. Visit Ralph Honda today and find out how we do Honda right at ralphhonda.com. Pat, we're stuck sort of in the middle of the week as we record this show. We don't know the outcome of the Patriots game, but I'm looking at a team that's 8-3, has played some pretty exciting games. In a normal season, we'd be thrilled to death with the way this thing is going, and yet there's shakiness involved, don't you think?
Well, I mean, the record is one thing. You're right. I don't think it's the record that's making Bills fans uncomfortable. I think it's all the bad luck that surrounded this team over the last 2.5 weeks. You have the flu ripped through the team. Then you have the game moved out to Detroit. Then you have more injuries on top of the injuries you already had happen during that Browns game. Then you got to go back on 4 days shortness with the weather still affecting you. Oh, here comes the flu again. They got you again. Oh, and then there's more injuries that you pick up in that Browns game or in the Detroit game. Excuse me. Von Miller might be gone for the season. Thank God we're hearing this week that Von Miller is planning on being back for that Jets game. But then you get back from Detroit, you got to play a game again. You don't get the mini bye. You got to play a week later on a Thursday. Oh, and the flu's back. Here comes the flu again. Look, I think that, again, we're taping this before the Patriots game. I have all the confidence in the world for the Bills to take care of business here. You win against New England. You get the Jets at home. You get the Dolphins at home coming off 2 back-to-back West Coast games. And you start to get people healthy. In a matter of 2.5 weeks, Bills fans will be a whole lot more confident than they have been the last 2.
Especially when you add on the fact that, remember, we went through this Mike White thing again, and I don't understand how Jet fans want to go right back to this wheel again. Do we not remember what happened where he basically didn't want to go back into the game last year against Buffalo? Okay, let them go down that road, Duffy. That's good for you. Let them go down that road. They want to take this second chance again. Zach Wilson has basically lost that team, but he could easily come back if White gets hurt. So we'll wait and see what happens. So the Jets defense is hard to deal with. That is the one thing I'm a little bit concerned about. Their defense is pretty good. Other than that, I think the offense for the Bills will be a little bit better if they stay healthy. I do give them credit. Winning those 2 games, I think that galvanized that team. It brought them together. They had to deal with that snowstorm. They had to deal with the flu. They had to deal with Detroit twice, came away with 2 wins. That's the type of week that could propel a team into the playoffs if they keep that momentum.
So I'm sensing optimism, Tariq, as opposed to Pat, who scares off easy. I sense optimism from the middle box here.
Reasons why it's fine, Bill. I just gave you reasons why it's fine.
Yeah, but you sound like you expect them to lose the next 4 games.
You did bring up the flu 3 times. I think you brought it on yourself, to Bill's point. But here's the other thing too. The only team that kind of scares you at the end of the season, if you're really worried about the Dolphins, that's great, but they have to play in Buffalo, is Cincinnati. Because I think they're going to be scrapping at the end of the year to try to make the playoffs, makes them a dangerous team. If the Bills are solid at certain aspects as far as home field advantage goes, maybe Kansas City drops a few games. We'll wait and see what happens. That's going to be really your last little scrappy game before I think the Patriots game is the last game of the year.
Yeah,
I'm thinking Cincinnati's a good team anyway. Go ahead, Pat.
I understand what you're saying about Cincinnati. I don't know if Cincinnati's a good team, man. I've watched a lot of Cincinnati games this year. There are games where they look unbelievable. There are games where you're wondering what the hell they're thinking going out there. Look, man, the next 3 weeks for the Bills will tell us a lot. The next 3 weeks for the Dolphins are going to tell us a lot, right? Like, everyone's been riding high on this Dolphins thing. Did you see the teams that they have beat on that 5-game win streak? It reminds me a heck of a lot last season of what the Patriots did on their 7-game win streak, where they were catching luck. Like, okay, the Dolphins have a West Coast road trip to San Francisco, a West Coast road trip to go play the Chargers, and then they got to go play in Buffalo. 3 straight road games against legitimate NFL teams. It's possible that if the Bills win the next 2 and the Dolphins lose their next 2, that when that Dolphins game is over, after the Bills have been in second place for however many weeks, they have a 2-game lead in the AFC East with, 4 games to go?
All right, then I take it back. You are being very optimistic. And, these things are important because right now, and as we go into the Patriots game, the seeding difference between being first and second in that division is 2 and 5. Our Buffalo Bills segment brought to you by Ralph Honda. Like it or not, is next. Here's the Press Box Trivia question brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Hey, hello again, Mike O'Brien, your getaway guy. Today's getaway, Boston's North End. It's great Boston food finds. I'll take you to my favorites. Look for The Getaway Guy on Facebook. The Getaway Guy on Facebook.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Our Like It or Not segment is brought to you by Sport Clips, where the MVP experience is better than ever. Sport Clips, the pros in men's hair, no appointments needed. Stop by a Rochester location today. Like it or not, Tariq, I vaguely remember you being on the show a couple of years ago when Mike White first made his appearance as a New York Jets quarterback, and you were all in on the guy. You like him again?
Well, you know what? I went with the Jets faithful. They loved Mike White. They thought his game was fantastic. He played prior to the Bills game. And then the Bills game came, and I remember distinctly there was a rumor that said he didn't want to go back in the game. So here we are, about a year later, and Mike White's the starting quarterback again, and they're going to face the Buffalo Bills. You think I'm going to double down on that bet? Hell no. There's no possible way. Until he actually gets the Jets into the playoffs, then I'll believe in Mike White. But that ain't going to happen.
Okay, wait a minute. Did you say the word playoffs? Because Mike White is being heralded all week this week after he beat a Bears team that had their backup quarterback playing. Like, am I out of my mind? Like, is anyone else seeing?
You know what you're missing here? A team desperate for a franchise quarterback and will take anything that comes close to resuming that or the hopes of that. That's exactly what you're getting.
I mean, look,
but any way you cut it, this guy's numbers are just unbelievable. I mean, it wasn't like what, Taylor Heineke is doing in Washington, where he wins games and everyone likes him and stuff like this. He doesn't put up the numbers. White's numbers are pretty unbelievable.
It was the Bears, and they played their backup quarterback. And even their backup quarterback was injured. Nate Peterman almost started that game.
Yeah, but the backup quarterback's not defending Mike White. He put up numbers against an NFL defense.
Listen, Duffy, here's what we love these stories. Where was he drafted? Very low, not a lot of expectation. We love to find these diamond in the rough. Dak Prescott's one of them. Tony Romo was another one. There's a Tom Brady. There's a whole list of these guys that we love to just say, hey, he worked hard and got his job and shot and never gave it back. I don't think that is with Mike White. Why don't you let Mike White be Mike White? If he is, great. You got your franchise quarterback. If he's not, good. Go look in the draft.
As a Bills fan, I highly encourage the New York Jets to bench the kid they drafted second overall and continue to play fifth-round pick Mike White. Why, you should absolutely do that. I high-five all of you. Go ahead, Salo. Let's see what you got.
Pat, like it or not, look, you brought him up, and I remember I sent out a text to you guys like, oh my God, Nate Peterman is going to start for the Bears. He had been activated just prior to the game off the practice squad, and Trevor Siemian hurt himself during warm-ups, and it looked like Nathan Peterman was actually going to play again.
It is mind-boggling to me.
I love the hesitation.
I've never met the guy. He might be the nicest guy in the world. This is not an indictment on him as a human being. How does Nate Peterman still have a job in the NFL? He must be a guy that's going to retire or get cut and immediately go into coaching. That is the only explanation as to why you are keeping him on NFL rosters, because he is, guys, let's be real, one of the worst statistical NFL quarterbacks in the history of the league.
Well, I don't understand why there's so much fascination with Peterman, just like why there's so much fascination with backup quarterbacks. We love backup quarterbacks. We want them to succeed no matter what. If your starter goes down, you love your backup quarterback. You think he's going to win you a whole bunch of games and he's the next best thing. If not,
but honestly, is there a better redemption story if this were to happen and he had a good game or did something? Is there another story out there that would compare to that?
Bill, think about this. Think about the redemption opportunities he's had. He has the 5 interception first half. He starts the season opener the next year and doesn't make it out of there. Then he fills in at Atlanta for an injured Josh Allen, proceeds to throw 2 picks and costs in the game. Then he ends up in Las Vegas and somehow gets on the field and is a disaster. And
so he's a 5-time loser.
What are you doing with Nate Peterman? What are you doing?
There he
next
is.
Year he's going to coach. He's going to coach. He's going to be an NFL head coach next year. That's how the way that's
Coach of the year.
That has to be it. It has to be.
Our Like It or Not segment brought to you by Sport Clips. Unfinished Business is next.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. Come home to McArdle's.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here. It's time for Unfinished Business on the Rochester Press Box. Unfinished Business brought to you by the Genesee Brewhouse, your beer destination since 2012. Visit the gift shop, enjoy a tasting at our pilot brewery, and dine at the pub-style restaurant, the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business. Pat, start us off.
You know, they say never meet your heroes, and don't listen to them when they say that. You know, I broadcasted live from Detroit last week, going to both of those Bills games. Best week of my life, no kidding. And on the day we were leaving, even out the door, it was amazing. I met Jim Nantz, and I wasn't a weirdo who went up to Jim Nantz and was like, "Hey, you're Jim Nantz. Jim Nantz stopped me on the street. I was carrying 2 cups of coffee for my wife back up to the hotel room." And he goes, "Excuse me. That's my favorite coffee place in America." And we start striking up a conversation. Had my Bills hat on. We're talking about Josh Allen and the Bills. Asked me where I'm from. Told him from Rochester. We started talking about Oak Hill. You know, he's the golf guy. He does all the golf stuff. I talked to Jim Nantz for 5 minutes, and it was like the coolest 5 minutes of my life. By the way, he talks like that in real life. The only thing he didn't do was say, "Hello, friend," which was a little disappointing, but I'll let him get over it. It was to the point where I had to leave to go home, and I was the one that had to say, like, "Sorry, Jim Nantz, I can't talk anymore. I have to go." It was like a top 5 experience of my life. And it is very refreshing to know every once in a while those folks that you watch on television and imagine are super cool actually are super cool.
When it comes to the world of broadcasting, if you're a young broadcaster and you're listening right now, do not give up on what you want to do and what you love to do. You just mentioned Jim Nantz. If you want to call golf, call golf. If you want to do whatever you like to do the best you can, but do it to perfection. Why? Because jobs are starting to disappear. Now, I'm not going to blame ex-athletes or ex-coaches that are getting into broadcasting. I am going to say, though, the elite of the elite will get in. If this is your passion, if this is what you want to do, create your own lane, your own YouTube page, your own Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever you have to do. There is something going on in the world of sports to where there are a lot of coaches now jumping either not in coaching into coaching or not in college football into football. Ex-players, ex-coaches, all these different opportunities are available. It is taking up broadcasting jobs. What's left? The number one broadcaster and football players and football coaches, NBA players, NBA coaches. It is a very tough job. It is a very competitive field. Even before this, if you want to be number one, you got to work hard every single day and create your own lane. But whatever you do it for fun and never give up.
I played soccer once, back in Hingham High School in Massachusetts, although there's no photographic evidence of my actually being in a game. I can remember only one. But it didn't stop me from thinking that I might be able to play at the college level as a walk-on. It was D3 after all. I got a jersey, watched the practice, and convinced myself otherwise. Failed to return the jersey. Not my proudest moment at Ithaca. It wasn't my worst either, though. So I know soccer can be a terrible sport to watch. Yet that's the beauty of it. There is so much downtime and so little reward for great play that when something actually does happen, like a goal or a big save, it is magnificent. Soccer fans understand this, and if you don't, they play the superiority card and they play it well. You are somewhat less of a human if you don't fully appreciate the beautiful game. Then every 4 years comes the World Cup. You watch because the United States is in it this year. You watch out of a sense of loyalty. You watch because you should. You watch because this is your opportunity to prove that you belong. Look around at the crowd at a sports bar, and it's a great sports bar sport. You can't tell the soccer fan from the poser. You cheer when you should, you groan when you ought to, and when the match is over, you hate the game because so little happened, and you love the game because it was fun. It's a real love-hate relationship. And that's the beauty of the game. That's our Unfinished Business, brought to you by the Genesee Brewhouse. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Good show.
Hopefully live back in studio, Bill, so you're not feeling alone.
By the way,
I do.
thank God there was no photographic evidence of your soccer playing. I know how short those shorts were back in the day.
Come on.
There are several of me on the sideline, but I did none of me actually getting into a game. I was awful.
I hope you're not sitting down. I hope you're not sitting down in those pictures.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week with the Rochester Press Box.
Or no mercy.